Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today we have a big show. Baseball is back. Opening day was yesterday. What a wild day of baseball. It's good to have the sport, the Summer Classic back. So much exciting stuff going on in there. We're also going to break down the first half of March Madness as well as the upcoming games that are today. We finally had a bunch of upsets. For really the first time in this tournament, there were a whole lot of upsets. We're going to break all of that down in our second segment. In our third and fourth segment, we're going to take a look at some interesting relationships between players and teams. Mike Trout and the Angels, and Draymond Green and the Warriors, and everything that goes between those two players and their respective teams. But like I was saying, in this first segment, we're going to talk a little bit about opening day. But before we do, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation, leave a message in it. It'll pop up on the bottom of the screen here for you, me, anybody else watching to see. We'll have a little discussion about what you had to say. Once again, that link to leave a tip or donation is gsmcpodcast.net. But like I was saying, we're going to start off... Oh my gosh, excuse me. We're going to start off today's show talking about Sweet 16 upsets. The Sweet 16. Got my order a little mixed up there. I apologize. March Madness Sweet 16 kicked off yesterday. We had, for the first time really, like I was saying, a bunch of major upsets. We had the first one seed of the tournament go down. We had a 3 seed beat a 2 seed in one of the best games of the entire tournament, a tight one all the way through. And we had a 6 seed in Clemson take down Arizona. That region down there at the bottom, that West region, Alabama, Clemson, the 4 and the 6 seed, we're finally getting a little bit of chaos here in what otherwise has been a really chalky year for March Madness. Alabama plays with pace. They are a team that can shoot the living daylights out of a basketball. Their strength is offense. Their weakness is defense. And they've just been able to overpower teams offensively with their pace. North Carolina just couldn't. It was a tight game, but down the stretch, North Carolina just didn't quite do enough. And really, you look at these numbers. If I didn't see the score in front of me, I think if you look at the numbers, they're very even. I would have taken North Carolina to win this game, but they didn't play at their pace the whole game, and they just kind of came unraveled there at the end. And the Crimson Tide are the first team to take down a 1 seed. They will be taking on Clemson, the 6 seed. The 6 seed Clemson, who was picked by probably the vast majority of people in the U.S. to lose to New Mexico. New Mexico was a very popular Cinderella pick in the beginning rounds, making the bracket. They beat them. They then again go and beat Baylor, and now they beat Arizona. Arizona and North Carolina. There's 2 star players, both of them, who used to be both on North Carolina. They both were 0 for 9 from 3. And when your star player isn't making their shots, it's going to make it a lot harder to win games. Clemson has come in and they've been really consistent throughout this entire tournament. And that's why they've won these games. They've scored 77, 72, and 77. They've given up 56, 64, and 72. You know, these teams are getting better. Their offense is staying consistent. And if you can put up almost 80 points in a March Madness game, you're going to win most of them. And Clemson has done a really, really good job of controlling the pace of play in their games, not letting the opponent dictate how they play, not letting them get sped up, not letting them slow down. I've been very, very impressed by this Clemson team. Bracket busters for sure. If there were any if there was anybody with a lot of stake left in those brackets, but that West region has collapsed. You know, the 4 and the 6 seed in the Elite 8. A lot of these teams haven't made the Elite 8 in quite some time. Illinois, who beat Iowa State, the 3 seed, they're going to take on UConn. 72-69 in that game. Again, this was one of the games I was most excited for. This one right here, you take between the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Iowa State Cyclones. The best defense in the league taking on the best offense in the league, at least by KenPom ratings, and it did not disappoint. Both of these teams, it was back and forth the whole time. Iowa was able, or not Iowa, excuse me, wrong I state. Illinois was able to break this one out. First time they're in the Elite Eight since, I believe, 2005. So it has been quite some time for this program. They're going to take on UConn in the Elite Eight, a team that is coming off a national championship season. But today's games, there are a couple of really, really good ones, especially down there in the bottom right corner of the bracket. Purdue and Gonzaga, they played earlier this season. Purdue beat them by 10. This Gonzaga team is hot, though, putting up 86, 89 points in their last two games, winning by 20 in both of their games so far. Purdue has also been dominating, 78 and 106. They've also won by at least 20 points in both of these games. Both of these teams have looked unstoppable. And when you have a guy like Zach Edey, and when these two teams have already played before, so I'm very excited to see how it differs. Gonzaga has time to figure out how to not let Zach Edey beat them. Purdue knows what works before. I'm interested really to see what adjustments these coaches make. I'm very, very excited for this game. That game is tipping off shortly. And the other game in that region between Creighton and Tennessee. Creighton and Tennessee are both teams that you take a look at. Creighton and Tennessee are both very similar teams. Tennessee might have the bigger star in Dalton Knecht, who's looking at being a lottery pick in this year's draft, but the Jays go deeper. The Creighton Blue Jays, Creighton has a team of 4 or 5 guys that can kill you every single night together, and that's what makes them so good. It's very, very tight between these two. I expect this game to be one of the best in all of March Madness. I know we've had some thrillers so far, but Tennessee and Creighton just match up so well against each other. The deciding factor in this game is whether Tennessee comes out and plays their brand of basketball. Tennessee is a 2 seed for a reason. They're really good. They have a great defense. They have the stars on offense to carry them. But sometimes they just kind of come out flat. Every once in a while, Tennessee will just come out flat. And it's unfortunate. There's nothing really you can do about that if you're Tennessee. I mean, you have to come out in this game. But Creighton is going to be Creighton. And if Tennessee can play their best ball, I think they can win this game. Either way, it's going to be close. I'm very, very, very excited for this game. And the other two games that are today, you have Marquette taking on Cinderella NC State team. That's the first game, actually, that starts at 7. And then Duke at Houston. Marquette at NC State. I don't think NC State stands much of a chance. We love the run that they've been on so far. Obviously, 11 seed is the lowest seed, still alive in the tournament. The only back half seed to make it. The next highest seed was that 6 seed Clemson, who did end up taking down the number 2 seed Arizona Wildcats earlier. We talked about, but NC State, as hot as they've been, Marquette just is a better team. Marquette is the first real juggernaut that they've run into. They played Oakland in the last round after they beat Kentucky. And then they beat Texas Tech in the round before, who wasn't really a super strong 6 seed. So they've kind of, don't want to call it a cakewalk because, teams make it to the tournament, they're good. Any given day in basketball, anything can happen, especially college basketball. But taking on Marquette here in the Sweet 16, this is the first massive test they've faced since the ACC tournament, since North Carolina in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. They haven't really faced an elite team since then. So it's been quite some time. I'm not sure if they've still got it. They had to go to overtime against Oakland, and if they play like that, you know, they shoot. They, they just need to make their shots. They don't. I just don't see them winning this game. I'm excited to see if they can keep it close. I'm rooting for them. We love our Cinderellas, but Marquette just seems like a buzzsaw. The way they're playing. If you watch them play against Colorado, it was a close game. It was a tight game, but when they really turned that second gear on, it was scary to watch. They were so efficient. They were almost like a perfectly cohesive basketball team. They were able to get to the rim however they wanted against Colorado, who I know isn't the greatest example of shining of defense, but that team is really scary. Marquette is. At the other side of that bracket at the top, Houston at Duke. Duke, who I just saw play one of the best games of college basketball against James Madison, heartbreaking. My James Madison Dukes never stood a chance when you're shooting 50% from three. If they continue to make their shots like that, it doesn't matter that you're playing the second best defense in the country at Houston. They're going to win that game. If Duke plays like they did against James Madison, there is not a team in this entire nation that can beat them. Now, they were making all of their shots, and they were getting all of the rebounds. You take a look at the rebound disparity between James Madison and Duke, it looks a lot closer than it was. But when you were watching that game, especially in that first half, the JMU Dukes could not get a rebound. And if they play aggressive like that, I think they can beat any team. Houston is a juggernaut, though. I've got Houston winning. I've got Houston winning it. I don't think Duke can play like that every night. I really don't. And Houston's defense is built to stand up to the way that Duke plays a little bit. They've got big guys on the inside. And Marquette, I've got them. I just don't see. I think there's too much of a power disparity between Marquette and NC State there. And then in the bottom, that bottom bracket, I'm very, very excited for. I do have Purdue winning this, although that's probably going to be those two games are going to be my favorite. I've got Purdue and Creighton, but I could easily see it going the other way. Those two games, I'm super hyped, super excited to watch. Let me know in the comments what you think about these games. If you think there's going to be more upsets, who your national champion is. If your national champion from the first bracket is still even alive. In our next segment, we're transitioning into some baseball. Opening day was yesterday. The American Classic sport is back. We're going to break down some of the big stories from the day, as well as some stuff that's been going on today. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out shows are 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't replaced all this my sound. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back, everybody. If you are just tuning in, we just finished breaking down March Madness, the Sweet 16. We had some huge upsets. The first one seed fell, Alabama taking down UNC last night, and some of my favorite matchups of the entire tournament. going on right now in that southwest region of the bracket between Purdue and Gonzaga and Tennessee and Creighton. Those two games are going to be must-watch television. But America's pastime is back. Opening day was yesterday, and boy, am I excited. Baseball is back. It is great. Summer is here now. But before we get into the opening day and everything that's been going on today as well, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation. Appreciate anything that you do give. If you leave a message with it, it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen. We'll have a little discussion about what you had to say. Once again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. Like I was saying, though, MLB opening day came and went. It is day 2 of the baseball season. Every single team in the league we have seen play now once, maybe more than once in the case of the Dodgers and the Padres. But let's break down some of the big results from day 1 in the MLB. We're going to start off with the first game because that's where you're supposed to start. The Orioles dominate the Angels. Beat them 11-3. Corbin Burnes in his debut with the Orioles went off. He strikes out 11 batters, including the first batter of the season. En route to a win, he goes 6 innings, only allows 1 hit the entire time, which was a home run in the first inning to Mike Trout. Mike Trout, who I will talk about here in a little bit, actually. But Corbin Burnes pitches a near-perfect game. Again, only allowing that 1 hit, 11 strikeouts, only 82 pitches in 6 innings. He was so efficient, so good with that Orioles team. If he keeps this up, he'll win that Cy Young. And the Orioles were mashing. They had 11 guys hit in the lineup. They had 10 guys hit, 11 guys play. Of those 10 guys who hit, only one of them didn't get on base at all. Actually, everyone got on base. Every single player. Only one of them didn't get a hit. He walked in this Urias, their third baseman. He walked in the 7th inning and scored a run. Every single one of their players got on at some point. That is crazy. That offense is going. They that team looks very scary. But Mike Trout, he hit that home run, gave the Angels the first run of the MLB season, the first hit of the MLB season. In the first inning, he hits a home run, and it's kind of tragic a little bit, the situation that Mike Trout finds himself in. He's arguably arguably the best player in the history of baseball. You can have that conversation. I think he definitely is up there. But he's been wasting away on the Angels, an Angels team that in his tenure there has only made the playoffs one time. One time. It was a wild card round and they didn't win a single game. It is awful to see a talent like that get wasted. And I know that he came out earlier this season was like, winning with the Angels means more to me than winning somewhere else. It would be super cheap of me, and I'm loyal, basically is what he said. I'm not going anywhere. But it gets to a point where a guy who has legendary of a career as he has, a guy who is up there in the history of players in baseball, one of the best of all time, and he just hasn't won anything because of the organization he's in. He hasn't been put in a position to win games. It's awful mismanagement. It is really sad to see, and I mean, he's still got some time, but I don't see this Angels team, who kind of just started another rebuild after getting rid of Shohei Ohtani, or not being unable to re-sign Shohei Ohtani. They're kind of in the midst of another rebuild, and I don't think Mike Trout is going to play long enough to get through this rebuild. At some point, he deserves to taste the postseason, and he's not going to do it with his Angels team, and it's really, really sad. It's something that he's a true travesty in baseball. There's a lot of things, and I feel like Angels fans kind of in the back of their brains know this too. Now, I'm not an Angels fan, so I don't know. And I don't know that many Angels fans growing up here on the East Coast. But when you see a player like that, a player who's given his all to your organization, don't you kind of want to see him win, even if it isn't with your team? Like, maybe not to the Dodgers. If he went to the Dodgers, I think they'd hate him. But if he goes to, like, the Rangers or something, and they win another World Series, are they really going to be that mad? At some point, he deserves to just ride the bench in his old age. I know he's still, obviously, we saw him be as good as he always was, hitting a home run in his first at bat of the season, Mike Trout. But don't we want to see Mike Trout get a ring? I I don't know. Maybe I'm putting words in the mouth of Angels fans, but I feel like they'd be okay with him going somewhere and winning. You know, especially if it's at the end of the career when he just kind of wants to ring chase. But right now he's still playing elite baseball. He's still top 10 in MVP voting, and there's not a clear front runner for MVP. At least there wasn't in the preseason. So who knows? Maybe he gets like his 10th MVP. Other stories from around baseball that yesterday we had our first extra inning game. Pirates and Marlins went into 12 extra innings, or went to the 12th inning, where the Pirates were able to claw out a victory there, 6-5, a really solid win for the Pirates there. We always fun to get our first extra innings, and the first real blowout of the season as well. The Diamondbacks put up 16 runs on day one against the Rockies. They beat them 16-1. Excuse me. They put up 14 runs in one inning. In that inning alone, I believe they went around the order 3 times. Or they went around the order 2 times. Or went around the order at least 2 times. You don't often get to bat around. But when you put up 14 runs in an inning, that's crazy. They chased the starter after 2.1 innings. He gave up 10 hits. Kyle Freeland did for the Rockies. The Diamondbacks look really good. The Reds look really good. The Reds and the Diamondbacks both played pretty garbage teams in the Nationals and the Rockies, but we can take away a lot from their performances. The Reds' defense played amazing. Their pitching was really good, other than the 1 home run that they gave up to Eddie Rosario in the 7th. They kind of shut down the entire Nationals offense and defense. Their bats were going early and often. They kind of put together a run, putting up 3 runs in the second, 4 runs in the third. So they got the bats going as well. The Reds looked really, really good yesterday. And it's good to see all those young guys continue to click and click quickly. You had Frankie Montas go 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks. His control is super, super impressive. This Reds team is really good. This Reds team is very, very good. So, excited to see what they can do. I think they'll win that Central Division, but there is a lot. There's a lot to go on. Vin Zero comments, "My bracket got busted." Where'd your bracket get busted? Was it UNC yesterday? Or was it a while ago? But no, the MLB opening day had a lot of stuff, and even today, baseball's still going on. The Mets played the Brewers. It was their opening day as well. There was our first baseball fight. We always love some baseball fights. Benches cleared after a slide on a routine play. Reese Hoskins, new Brewer, slid hard into second base after he was out and kind of took out the knees of the second baseman for the Mets, Jeff McNeil. So, benches cleared. We had our first baseball fight. we had our first everything. There isn't a lot that got missed in these first 24 hours of baseball. We had a fight, we had a blowout, we had extra innings, we had everything. It was a very, very intense opening day. Lots of good stuff for the rest of the season. Very excited to see how the rest of the season goes. 161 games to go. But in our next segment, we are going to transition into some football. There's a new football league starting this weekend. The UFL, merger between the XFL and the USFL. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So stick around. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me through that break. If you are just tuning in, we just finished breaking down MLB opening day, all the crazy stuff that went down, the first of everything. Corbin Burns' incredible first start with the O's. Mike Trout hitting the first home run, the first blowout. The O's, and a whole bunch of other teams looking great, and we had our first baseball fight as well earlier today. So baseball is alive, thriving, and well. Very, very excited for the rest of that season. In this segment coming up right here, though, we are going to talk all about the UFL, the new football league that is the merger between the XFL and the USFL. We'll break down that, talk about the season a little bit, talk about how it'll work. I'm very excited. I'm a big DC Defenders fan. I've been to a game in both iterations of the XFL. The first one that COVID got rid of, I went to the last game there, and then I went to the first game between the new XFL last season. So I'm a big fan of the Defenders here. We're going to break down this league that's honestly really exciting. Any kind of football is getting me ready to go. We love spring football. But before we get too far into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation. We appreciate anything that you do give. If you leave a message with that tip or donation, it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen. We'll have a little discussion about what you had to say, anything that you want to talk about. We'll have a little discussion about. Once again, that link to leave a tip or donation is gsmcpodcast.net. We appreciate you guys for watching, tuning in, and leaving tips and donations. But like I was saying, we're going to talk about the UFL. The UFL, the merged league between the XFL and the USFL. Two spring football leagues that were kind of competing last season. Both got pretty solid ratings, and now they're going to combine forces, make one league instead of have two compete against each other. The way it's going to work, there are 8 teams. They took 8 teams. They took 4 teams from each of the leagues, 4 from the USFL and 4 from the XFL. So from each of those, they made divisions, obviously. They made 2 different divisions. They put the XFLs in one division and the USFL in the other division. The teams that are coming over from the USFL are the Showboats, the Stallions, the Panthers, and the Roughnecks. all those teams are coming over from the USFL. From the XFL, we have the Defenders, the Brahmas, the Renegades, and the Battlehawks. So you have teams all over the country, a couple in California, a couple in the not too many, couple in Texas, a couple in on the one or two on the East Coast, but nothing really too far north. So they're starting off small. Obviously, they have plans to expand it, but the first season of the XFL or the UFL, kicks off on Saturday, tomorrow. You'll have two games between the Stallions, the Renegades, the Battlehawks, and the Panthers. They'll be aired on Fox and ESPN. They have the most important thing for a spring league to survive that we've seen is having the ability for the public to watch it, and taking a look at how some of the other spring leagues that kind of failed, they've already got this figured out. They have it to the national audience on Fox and ESPN, and they've done a really good job publicizing it as well. So football is back. I am so excited for it. The way the season's going to work, there are 8 weeks in the season. There's 10 weeks in the season. After that, after week 10, they go to the playoffs. There's going to be 2 from each division, I believe. So top 2 from each division are going to make it in. And then they play based on record. You play I believe you play the team in your division first, and then you move on and play the winner of the other one. And the host, they've already selected the host city. I believe it's in Dallas for I don't know exactly what they're calling it, the Super Bowl of the UFL. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe it's just called the championship game. But very excited to see how this goes. There are a lot of players on these rosters that, they're all getting second chances. Some guys that you've heard of, some guys that you haven't. The Battlehawks have QB AJ McCarron. He was obviously the guy that led Alabama to a couple national championships back in college. He's had a couple semi-successful stints in the NFL as a backup, and he had one really, really nice season in the XFL last season. Jordan Teamu, who those who watch spring leagues before will remember, is on the DC Defenders. There's a lot of new rules that they're going to try, and they're trying to be like a feeder league to the NFL. They have, instead of splitting the talent between 2, they're getting, one talent pool. So you're getting a much better level on the field. Now, you watch some of those XFL and USFL games, there were some solid games. You had Ben DiNucci in there, some guys that got NFL contracts. Donald Parham started in the XFL. He's now tight end 1 for the Chargers. He's been there for quite some time. There's a lot of guys that get a second chance here. So we love these spring football leagues. Looking at it, based on the odds, the Birmingham Stallions are the ones that are favored to win the championship. You have the DC Defenders and the St. Louis Battlehawks tied for second there, and then the Arlington Renegades in fourth. So there are a couple big names still in there. We already went over AJ McCarron and Jordan Teamu. But if you've watched any of Spring League before, you have guys like Luis Perez and Case Cookus. Case Cookus, I believe, started a couple games in the NFL for injured quarterbacks. So there are a whole bunch of stuff to watch. Like I said, some of these teams have had 3 iterations already, or this will be the 3rd iteration. The rules, obviously, they're trying new rules. Extra points is one of them. You've heard the extra point style. There's no kicking anymore. You can go for 1, 2, or 3. If you go for 1, it's from the 2-yard line. Go for 2, it's from the 5, and you go for 3, it's from the 10. But what they won't be bringing back is the kickoffs that they have, or now that the NFL has adopted, actually. So the NFL adopted the XFL style kickoff, and the new UFL will not be bringing it in. So very excited. Again, we talked about that kickoff a couple days ago. I'm very excited for that kickoff to see exactly how it's going to work. I think talent in the NFL is going to absolutely make that one of the most electric plays. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. The review system, the open review system that people really loved, is going to be back. There's a lot. I'm very excited for this league to start. There are 10 weeks. Starts this week, ends the first week of June. So lots of stuff to keep an eye out on. Like I said, it's entertaining. This UFL. It's not the same talent level as, the NFL, but it kind of is on the same level as college football. You get some really talented guys in there, but you know that most people on that field aren't going to make it to the NFL. There's a lot of guys that get a shot. It's really good to see that these spring leagues are actively being pushed for and have a following. More football is always good. Football year-round. Big fan of that. But we're really giving these young athletes who just kind of got overlooked a chance. There's plenty of draft busts in the NFL, and this kind of gives these guys that were overlooked, went undrafted, kind of had a little more of a hidden path, not in the eyes of scouts and everyone, another chance to make the NFL, or at least to continue their dream of playing football. So I am a big fan of the UFL and spring football as a whole, really. Very excited to see how this season goes, how they're going to, if they are ever going to become a true feeder league to the NFL, because right now they just kind of take the NFL scraps, which is kind of how it works. And I know they've had discussions with the NFL about becoming kind of a minor league for them. I'm curious how that would work, because it doesn't seem like the NFL is too interested in having like a true minor league. They already have college football, which kind of acts as a minor league. But maybe they can get some kind of partnership with the UFL. I'd love to see exactly how that goes. But in our fourth and final segment coming up, we are going to talk all about Draymond Green and the NBA and the Warriors and the standings and where they find themselves in, because he is, I don't want to say single-handedly bringing the Warriors down, but there's a lot of stuff going on between in that situation. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found. For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with me through that break. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking about the new football league, the new spring football league, the UFL, that is coming up this Saturday. Tomorrow the games start. They play Saturday and Sunday. Opening weekend for the UFL. We talked all about that. Before that, we talked about MLB opening day, the big storylines from them, all the big firsts of the season, teams that look surprisingly good, surprisingly bad, everything that comes with that. And in our first segment, we broke down the Sweet 16, the matchups that are coming up today. Some of my favorite matchups are coming up today, actually. That between the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the Purdue Boilermakers, and the other team, the other Sweet 16 matchup in that bracket as well, the Creighton Blue Jays versus the Tennessee Volunteers. Those two games I am super duper excited to watch, as well as breaking down Alabama beating the 1 seed UNC, the first 1 seed to fall in a very, very chalk bracket, and the 6 seed Clemson continuing to roll through as well. So we'll have at least one non-1 seed in the Final Four. So very, very exciting. College basketball is awesome, especially March Madness. But like I was saying in our last segment, in this segment we are going to talk a little bit about Draymond Green and the Warriors and the situation that they have with the NBA, because he is in a very unique situation that doesn't happen too often, if ever, in the history of the sport. But before we get too far into that, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net, leave a tip or donation. We appreciate anything that you do give. Leave a message with that tip or donation. It'll pop up on the bottom of the screen. We'll have a little discussion about what you had to say. You, me, everybody watching around the world can participate in this. Once again, that link to leave a tip or donation was gsmcpodcast.net. But like I was saying, we're going to get right into our topic today, our fourth topic today, that being Draymond Green and the Warriors, and specifically focusing more around Draymond Green, because the Warriors, he plays such a significant role on that team that while Steph Curry is obviously the star, he is the main scorer, the big attention drawer, Draymond Green kind of is the cog that makes it work. He's the engine that keeps the machine going, and he's just been playing so recklessly recently. And really, it hasn't been recent. He's been doing this forever. But you take a look at how many incidents he's had this season. He was obviously earlier this season suspended indefinitely for putting someone in a chokehold, basically. But now that you're in crunch time, and the Warriors, who currently hold a one-game lead over the red-hot Houston Rockets, a team that has won 10 straight games in that Western Conference to stay in the play-in, they are battling to be that last team in. There's only so many games left in the season. They're 38 and 34. They've played the 72 games. They only have 10 games remaining in this season, and Draymond Green keeps getting ejected. His last ejection was only 4 minutes into a game that Steph Curry ended up hitting a game-winning buzzer beater or clutch shot down the end to win that game. But Draymond Green kind of puts them in situations where he is so important to the success of that team because of what his skill set is. He's not going to put 30 points up in a night, but he is an anchor defensively. He is one of the best at moving the ball around in that system. Everything he does, other than score the basketball, is what makes the Warriors so successful. And he's an integral part to that team. We've seen how they were without him. It's a completely different team. When it's so tight like this, 10 games to go, separated by one game, you kind of need Draymond Green to lock in. You kind of need him to chill out with everything that he's been doing. You play the Rockets in 4 games. That's going to be a huge matchup that could absolutely flip the playoff seeding. You know, only one of those two teams, the Rockets or the Warriors, are going to even get the shot to make the playoffs in that play-in tournament. And Steph Curry, as good as he's been this season, and he's been phenomenal, Steph Curry isn't really enough on his own to win a championship or push this team super far anymore. A team that definitely needs some help there at the top. Draymond Green just kind of keeps playing like it's nothing. He keeps going and doing whatever he wants. It's not really a good look for the Warriors. Draymond Green, like I said, is just super duper important. You know, he's been ejected a whole bunch of times this year already. He's been ejected 4 times this season. Ejected from a game this season for the 4th time. It's the first time. It's the first time since 2017 that someone's been ejected that many times. He's been ejected almost 20 times in his history, in his career. It's just kind of a shame. You know, you take a look at a team that obviously they're on the downhill slope of a dynasty, but he's really kind of pushing them. You know, and in this most recent one, it was so early in the game. Like, sometimes it just feels like he doesn't want to play, and he's like, all right, I'll get ejected. He's been ejected 19 times in his career. In NBA career. He's been, he's been ejected 19 times. It's up there in the history of the NBA. It's a mess. He needs to figure it out if they want to make any kind of run, even make the playoffs. He's going to be so integral in that. And the Warriors just so close to being just out. Like I said, it's only one game. It's a 1-game difference. They play each other in 4 games. This is going to be tight down the stretch. This is the race that everyone's watching. Every other race is basically done. Now there's some seeding stuff that could get messed around with, and that's something that we can look at. There's only 2 teams that aren't in the play-in right now that could even make it. The Rockets are 1 game out, and the Nets technically aren't eliminated. They're 6 games back of the Hawks, and they're basically out at this point. I believe 1 more loss and they'll be out as long as the Hawks win a game. 6 games behind with 10 games to play. It's not not looking too good. But the big race there is in the West between the Rockets and the Warriors. And Jalen Green and the Rockets have been so hot. You go on a 10-game win streak. They're the hottest team in the NBA. The next closest win streak right now in the NBA is 4 games. 5 games. The Lakers have won 5 games in a row. But they're super hot. Super hot. I think that they'll pass the Warriors. And other races to watch here in the NBA as well as we count down the final 10 games, 9 games of the regular season. That battle for the number 1 seed in the West is still very much in play. Denver has 1 game on everybody else. They have half a game lead on Minnesota and Oklahoma City. The Nuggets, 51-22. Timberwolves and OKC are both 50-22. I believe, the Nuggets and Timberwolves play tonight. Talk about a huge matchup right there. And then they play again. They play twice in the next 10 games, or the next 9 games. Minnesota obviously has the Nuggets twice, but the Thunder don't play any of those guys. So there's a couple huge matchups there, and the Thunder have the opportunity to kind of leapfrog over them. Really, I think this is a battle between. So those 2 games are going to decide between those two. But if OKC can just keep winning, I think they might be able to sneak in and steal that last number one overall that number one overall seed in the West. Really, really tough as we get down to the end of the season here in the NBA. Lots of great races to watch out for. But that one at the bottom between Houston and Golden State is probably the biggest one. Just how close it is, and one of those teams is on the upward track, the other one is trending downward. And Draymond Green, I think, needs to pull himself together if they want to make the playoffs. I know he said he's not worried about the Rockets, but they are as close as they can be right now. So, anyway, thank you everybody so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Hope you have a great weekend. The UFL, keep an eye out for it. We'll talk about that. I had a mock draft today, but there was some other stuff, so it got pushed down. So we'll talk about that on Monday as well as the Final Four will be set after this weekend. There's a lot to keep up with this weekend. Come back on Monday, same time, same place. We'll be right here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. You guys have a great one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.